Alright guys, here we are back again with another review video. So today I want to do something a little bit special. We are going to be reviewing Parasite Eve and Parasite Eve 2 in one video. So let me start off by saying that Parasite Eve was an absolute masterpiece. That game was really good and I have been wanting to play it for such a long time now, and I'm so happy that with Halloween season and everything coming around, finally, I got to play this banger of a game. First of all, yeah, when you start with her, she has this beautiful black dress and she looks stunning. So right away, Aya's vibes were awesome. She reminded me a lot of Jill, especially Jill from Resident Evil 3 original, because both of them have this very motherly and professional attitude. So I thought that was really cool. The gameplay was fun. I absolutely loved the fixed camera angles. I thought that was so nice that Squaresoft tried to do something that Resident Evil was known for when it first came out. So that's just so amazing. I liked how the game was inspired from Resident Evil style, but it was really like not too much so that you can say like it's a ripoff of Resident Evil. It was really its own thing. The whole JRPG mixed with survival horror, that was just really cool. The gameplay was fun. I like that green net that would come on when you would have to fight enemies. It reminded me of Vagrant Story, another interesting game that Squaresoft released. So I like that you know, you had to be in the range to attack the enemies. The bosses were fun. There were a few that were frustrating, like that one spider on the hospital roof. That one was awful. I hated it so much. But aside from that, I love the Eve fight when you're in Central Park on a carriage. The horse is on fire and you have to fight Eve, and like she's like flying all over Aya. That was really cool and so stressful because it's such a small place and you have so little room. So I thought that was really awesome. Next, what can I say? The music, again, absolutely amazing. That's really a Squaresoft thing. They always have good songs, whether it's Final Fantasy and now this. It's really good. The music, like every single song, were so good. I like the opera sections of, like, you know, the little opera soundtracks that they would have, especially at the beginning or when Eve was around, because that reminded me of Code Veronica, Resident Evil again. And Code Veronica is a game that had like amazing atmosphere, so I like that. And honestly, this game, I love how it is, like it happens during Christmas Eve, but it's a horror game, you know, so it really feels like you could play this game on both, like for Halloween and for Christmas, kind of like The Nightmare Before Christmas, how you can watch it for both holidays. I think that's really cool. And the characters were awesome. Aya, such a likable girl. Danielle, her friend, also amazing. And I liked, there was a small Easter egg that I really liked with one of the police dogs. Its name was Shiva. So I know they like to, you know, use Shiva a lot in Final Fantasy. So I like that. It was a nice little touch. And yeah, honestly, Parasite Eve was a 10 out of 10 game. The game was so good. Everything about it, the gameplay, the story. It was short but nice. It's not too long where it gets overwhelming, and it's the right amount where you're like, oh man, I wish there were more, you know. I really like that. So it was done very well. And now to start with Parasite Eve 2. Now Parasite Eve 2 is completely different. If you want, if you think that you are going to see stuff that tie up with the events of Parasite Eve 1, boy, you are wrong. The things completely different. First of all, I was expecting them to like kind of explain what happened at the end of Parasite Eve 1, because that last scene that we saw was really suspenseful. So I was expecting that in Parasite Eve 2 there would be mentions of it. However, the New York City incident, as they call it in Parasite Eve 2, is briefly mentioned, and when they mention it, they go over it quickly. Now, Parasite Eve 2 had 10 controls, which at first took me a while to get used to because it's been so long since I've dealt with these kind of controls. I didn't mind it too much. Sometimes in certain boss fights it would get stressful and I would forget where to go, but otherwise I really didn't mind it that much. One thing I really liked about this game is the gameplay. Now, if you are all about action gameplays, now this is a good game for that, because everything is really, it's faster paced than the first game. It's everything goes faster, the enemies attack, you have to switch between weapons, and you get again a big variety of weapons, much like in the first one. And you get also pepper sprays, you get, I think you can also buy a stun gun, you get so many different things, and I think that's really amazing, the amount of stuff you can buy. You can buy different protection armor, much like in the first one, but it seems like they added a bit more stuff. Now the story was a bit weird, I'm not gonna lie. Really not memorable, if I can say. Like, Aya moved to LA now and she's a monster hunter apparently, so she's still FBI now, but she's like a monster hunter. The story was just not really memorable, and neither were the characters. Aya, she looked amazing. I think she's a little older too, so she looked really nice. That there's nothing to say against that. The boss fights, some of them were kind of frustrating, I'm not gonna lie, especially the final boss fight. That was an awful fight, and I only mean the first part of the final fight. The second fight, where you have the second half where you fight Eve, is more fun, but the first part, oh my god, I'm traumatized with it. Also, you get her parasite abilities. There's a lot of grinding to do in this as well, and my mistake was that at the beginning of the game I spent a lot of time buying ammunition and healing items, so when the end of the game came I was very low on points to afford like better weapons. So this game, like, the story was not as good as the first one, but the gameplay was really fun. Again, I don't have a problem with the fixed camera angles, nor did I have a problem with the tank control. I thought this game, honestly, is all about the gameplay rather than, you know, the story. It's more like fun and it's less deep, if I can say, but it's still a decent game. Wasn't my favorite, and I'll give it probably a 7 out of 10 because it was enjoyable and I had a good time with it. I liked how you go to different places and the enemies were so creepy. They definitely were scarier than in the first game. You get a wide variety of enemies that are absolutely terrifying. Now, my main issue with this game, besides the story not being too good, was the fact that this game felt a lot like a Resident Evil game. And when I say a lot, it is literally like a rip-off of Resident Evil. From the way the game goes to like how you have to pick up items and descriptions and everything, this game felt too much like Resident Evil. And I think that if they would have kept like how it was in the first game, it would have been a bit better. Because the first game, although it was kind of similarities with Resident Evil, it was not too obvious to the point where you're like, oh, I'm playing a fake Resident Evil game. The second one, Parasite Eve 2, was just too much like Resident Evil. So I would have liked for them to kind of like, you know, stay a bit more original, but they wanted, I suppose at the time, I think Resident Evil 3 came out, so I guess they wanted to like join the cool kids also and do the stuff that was popular. So yeah, Parasite Eve 2 was fun. It deserves its 7 out of 10. Honestly, I don't think that it matters which order you play the games. It would be best if you play the first one first, because they still mention New York in the second one, but really it's not too obvious where like you must. So if you wish to play the second one first, go ahead. I recommend it, honestly. Now sadly I won't be able to play the third one. I heard this, I didn't know until later that apparently there was a third game for PSP. I don't know if there's anything about it online. I'll have to read into it just to see like a quick summary of the story or whatnot. But yeah, Parasite Eve was a great adventure and I truly enjoyed it. Absolutely loved the detective vibes and everything. That game was just, I mean, that series was good. I'm so thankful for all of you guys who had joined me during this adventure. You guys always make everything better. It's a great experience to do this with you guys. And today I would like to give a little shout out to everyone out there who has become members. Whether you're a rock star or a groupie, you are welcome and you are loved. So I want to give a special thanks to Bruno Andrade. I want to give also a special thanks to Mr. Sean M, to Tugatoa, to Verdu Man. I also want to give a thank to Cochinote, Mark, Boyce. I want to give a thank to Johnny Darko. I want to give a thank to Soul and R&B Hit. Thank you so much, you guys. Another thing to True That Too, to Scruffy, Nerf Herder, to Killjoy, to Sun 4K, to Distalk, to Azure Skies, to Supreme Summoner, to Todd Johnson. A special thanks to Jesse and Rob Joseph alongside Roth. Thank you also Edgar Bancian. Also Howie Hellbent. Thank you so much. Thank you ETX. Thank you Zordon. Thank you Gaming Montel. And thank you Amir Aribokia. Thank you guys so much for becoming members and for becoming my little rock stars and groupies. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for everything, for all the love and support. You guys are the best. And I will see you all on the next review video. Bye!